be following the rules and procedures effective December 15th, 2020. Please make sure that your cell phones are turned off. Any correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion. Our meeting schedule for November will be as followed. On the 2nd, 9th, and 16th, we'll have a work session at 4 p.m. On the 23rd, we'll have a regular session at 7 p.m. And on November 30th, we have no meeting scheduled. And we do have a proclamation today for Complex Regional Pain Syndrome Awareness Month. I'm going to go ahead and present the proclamation, then I will bring Mrs. Leidig up. That's okay? So whereas the complex regional pain syndrome, also known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy, is a chronic pain condition most often affecting one of the limbs, and it can strike any individual at any age and affects both men and women. It's characterized by prolonged or excessive pain and dramatic changes in skin color, temperature, swelling. So I'm going to give the mic to you, if that's okay, to read or to explain the syndrome.
CRPS, also known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy, is a beast. The best way that I can describe it is you think of a hurricane that is a category 4 or 5. That's a catastrophic illness. That is what RSD has done to my life. It is a burning, intense pain that is fire 24/7. It does not let up. It doesn't ease, to the point where when I'm in a shower, I cannot even stand the water heading. That's how intense and painful this condition is. When I was diagnosed at the age of 19, nothing was known about it. 31 years later, thanks to your support, there is a lot more known about it, but we have a long way to go. I could not do what I do without my mom and two of the ladies here who are on the Orange Train, Allison Banzoff and Roz Johnson. They are my Orange Train, they're my support, they're my heart. And I want to thank you all for doing what you're doing to spread awareness for RSD CRPS. And we do have orange ribbons for all of you.
Thank you so much for your bravery, for sharing your story, and for bringing attention to this. We really appreciate it. Can you pass out the ribbons? Thank you. Up next, we have citizen comments. We have a couple of people signed up to speak today. So when I call you up, if you could just state your name and address, and then you have 5 minutes. Up first, we have James Devine.
Devine, Post Office Box 2217, Hagerstown, Maryland. Good evening, members of the council. Last time I was here, I spoke about a sign that was on the corner of Commonwealth and Frederick Street at the VFW, and I asked if it could be moved back a foot or two from that intersection, so when you stopped at that intersection, you could see up Frederick Street of traffic oncoming to you. There's a big white line there, and you're supposed to stop behind the white line. But if you pull above the white line, then you're in the turn lane traffic coming off Frederick Street onto Commonwealth. So if you could look into that again, I don't see what the problem is either shortening their sign 2 feet or moving it back 2 feet for that intersection so people can see up the road. Also, last time I was here, I asked about the trim the trees at the post office, because every time I pull my van in there in front of the post office, it's a 10-foot high van, and it scrapes the side of the van. You know, if you give me permission, I'll trim the trees back, you know, for you if you want. But I think that needs to be addressed. Also, I'd like to address the bicycle paths, the bicycle grates. Some of the bicycle grates in town are a hazard, because if a person rode over them with a bicycle, the front tire would go down into that grate, the way the grates are made, and they would start to fly over the handlebars. In fact, East First Street, most of the grates on that street are just, and then there's one actually behind the parking garage here, the grate. You know, somebody come down that alley on a bike, their front tire would go down into the grate itself. I think the city should expand the bicycle lanes in Hagerstown, you know, if all possible. And then I spoke briefly about the drone systems for the police department. You know, I think it would be an addition to the police department to have drones in with their system. You know, if they pulled up to a resident and didn't want to send their officers up, they could send a drone up in front of the residents in order to announce herself outside. It would keep them in a safety place. And then the legislators, there's a meeting on November 9th at the junior college for anybody in the public that would want to attend. I'm not sure when the public session of that would go. It's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the junior college. You know, there used to be a time when the legislators would hold it on a Saturday at South High when people were off work. You know, the date they have set for November 9th is a Tuesday in the middle of the week. People aren't able to attend. You know, the legislators, it reminds me of a movie I once saw, it says, "Catch Me If You Can." You know, because you know, if they wanted to talk to people, they would schedule it on a Saturday, you know, at a place like South High or North High Auditorium where people could attend. You know, I think it's a disservice to the community. And then I talked about electric vehicles. You know, the city should look at the evaluation of their fire departments, you know, because if there's a fire with electric vehicle, concerning a regular gas vehicle, it's a totally different fire. The fire will just keep igniting because of the batteries. And there's a special foam that you have to use and try to put the fire out with. But it's a different procedure that has to be used. And then I spoke briefly about the pool system over there, about changing the water in it, but actually I get gas at the AC&T right next to the pool. And I think maybe you should educate the people that run the pool to look for predators or perverts that are hanging out at that pool during the summer. I can sit there across from the gas station and point some of them out, you know. So, but I think there should be training given to those people, you know, that would identify those people at the pool. And I guess that's about all. Oh no, the speed camera on Downsfield Pike back behind South High. Now, it's supposed to be a state highway, you know, but there desperately needs a speed camera put back there behind that school. You know, I don't know what has to be done, you know, and Sheriff Mollendor should be congratulated for instituting the speed cameras around the schools in this area, you know, but there needs to be a camera put back there because people are flying down there when kids are coming out of school, you know, and the bad thing of it is there's a solid white line going down the road. You're not supposed to pass on a solid white line. But when people are turning in that shopping center, that's all the cars do. And when they pass, they're coming right at the exit from South High where the kids are at. And I think it's a dangerous intersection. You know, maybe there should be, you know, solar flashing lights, you know, that would activate during school times, you know, that would tell the people to slow down in the area. I think the 30-mile area, it says that fines double, but people just aren't slowing down in that area. That's one point. They got it in front of the South High, but they don't have one behind it. And if you could work with the State Department or whoever has that road, state road, you know, to see that there's a camera put back there, it would be for the safety of the children. I guess that's about all.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
Thank
Be
you,
safe.
too.
Thank you, Chairman.
Next, we have Penny Nye.
My name is Penny Nye. I live on Mulberry Street, Hagerstown, Maryland, and I was born and raised here in Hagerstown. I have concerns tonight that I want to address, and of course the main one that just happened was the other shooting that we just had on Mulberry Street. A year ago, we had another shooting on Mulberry Street. We have shots fired on Mulberry Street. We're not talking a lot of blocks, but it's happening. And it's just something that continues to go on, and I don't know how to get it resolved. Not knowing what we have that's living here makes it very difficult. We have people coming from Fairgrounds Park, ending up on porches or on streets along properties while sleeping off whatever they may be on. This is becoming now more and more. So whether or not they're homeless or not, it is an issue. And not knowing when one of these just may turn on kids, and we've got a lot of kids that are in the area. We've had vandalism of cars in the alley, but the city encourages off-street parking. Cameras are a need, a really big need. And I'm just so tired of hearing that we just don't have the money to get them up and moving. We've got to do something. We've got drugs in one block now of Mulberry Street that are moving up and down the street. We see the exchanges, we see all of it. And you're not going to be able to get anybody from even the task force because of them being overwhelmed, because you really have to make a book on it as to it happening and where it's happening. And I'm sure that it's also happening the whole way around Hagerstown if you go out and you watch the streets. The dirt bikes, I know that there is an issue. Emily, I saw you look at the clock. Mara back here is giving me her time because I'd never get done. We have dirt bikes, three-wheelers, four-wheelers that are popping willies going up the street. What can we do? We can't do anything. As a citizen, pull the car out, and we're going to be charged if we knock them off. But something has to happen. We have them that they're over in the fairground, and now I would say that there are not any guards that are over there. So it's very difficult because they're up around the BMX track and they are at the stables over there. And by the time that they get from one point to the other, it is horrendous. If they ever lose the person on the back of the bike, they're going to end up on a sidewalk. And if a child's coming down or even an older person, it's going to hurt them really bad. Build and they will come. Homeless shelter. That took place in the early 2000s. We now are blessed with so many people that are not from our area. And I've said before, when they're born and they're raised here, it's a different story than taking everybody in. The city cannot continue to handle all of this. And it is our employees that have to do most of the work. The ones that are setting in these places, that are collecting the big bucks for managing it, don't have to think about it. You all have to think about it and then figure out where the money's coming from when we need to get more police. The group homes, how many do we actually have? Halfway houses, how many do we have? But yet we have organizations that are bringing in people from the prisons, and that has been going on for some time. They go down to Baltimore, they bring them up, and this is where they're at. That organization actually owns almost a whole block in the city of Hagerstown and now wants to expand out even more. Drug treatment facilities, how many of those do we have? How far have we come to stopping the opioid problem? We continue to get the people in here, and I can guarantee you that they're not all Washington County, Hagerstown people. And we cannot continue to just absorb this. As people who own their own homes, people who even rent, should not have to face this all the time. We also have the issue of, and this was brought up by the Neighborhoods First in the South End, about boarded up houses. We have had boarded up houses, and one especially since 1995. He paid $10,000 in fines and never corrected the situation. And that's 600 North Mulberry, if anybody would care to look. It's now falling apart. Unfortunately, code has been relaxed. When it was brought on, and with the amount of people that we hired, they did their job and what the job required. And, you know, being told to back off is not helping the city of Hagerstown, because it actually looks worse than what it ever has. And then we have all of what we have that are coming from the group homes, as well as halfway houses on the street, waiting on the street for whatever they can get, whether the need be that they go to one of the organizations, but this is what we have. And if you look at Hagerstown and you look at this downtown, it is appalling as what you do see. We had the issue, and I know that, but it has gained momentum. And it's very, very difficult to try to explain to people this is what is going on. We need more police. We need to retain what we have. We're down police. It's very difficult to try to get a hold of when they are overwhelmed and are working more hours than what they really should be working. The whole town of Hagerstown is being impacted with all of what is coming into our area. You need to look very closely at the pay raises for the police, and I know that they have had one, but you need to look again when these contracts are going to be coming forward next year. We need to maintain what we have as all employees for the city of Hagerstown, because without them, the city would even be worse than what it is. How much COVID money did the city get, did it receive, and how was it dispersed? I don't know how much is still left, but when it came to the whole camera issue, I had asked about that to an officer, and that was put down, but that went nowhere. And again, we need help. We need help the whole way around here with cameras and somebody to man those cameras, because we've got to get it under control. We will continue to have more coming across the mountain, coming across the state lines to live here, because this is the place to be. You can get all of the amenities. And if you continue to let it go like this, we will be known as nothing. Hagerstown will not be a destination place. It's slowly losing all of what it had and what we offered. We have the whole homeowners versus rental properties. It once was 60% rentals and 40% homeowners, and I would not be afraid to say that we are less than 40% now in homeowners. That kills a city. It kills a city. And as far as what we're getting in taxes, we bring in businesses. Businesses can be exempt from paying any taxes for as many as 10 years. It's happened before. I don't know what Amazon's doing, but I would say in order to get them there, you all made deals on that one. This is a big, big concern. And most of this is about one block in the city. And I would behoove everyone to go to all blocks in the city. You'll have an eye-opener. Kristen knows that. Bob knows that. We've been there. But the decline is very, very upsetting. And when people look at me and say, how much longer can you actually live there? Well, I'm here. And it's a matter of protecting it. And I told Chief Smith when he left, I probably will be sitting on the porch with a gun, and have to maintain my own property, and then make sure that if I do the shooting, I'm not going to be charged. Because this is how far we've come with not having control of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Yep.
Michael Stout.
I'm going to give you some good news first. When I first came here, Michael Stopp, 18 South Mulberry. When I first came here to this meeting, the very first time, I came in here thinking you all were sitting on your butts. She proved me wrong. He's proved me wrong. She's proved me wrong. I have saw a big change since I've taken some action in my neighborhood. Now I've mentioned a walking tour. That was a walking tour on my camera, pictures. I went out of the area a little bit. I'm never going to disclose that unless you people want to see it. I'm not going to embarrass the city, because when you see it, you're going to be embarrassed. Now this is since September, and I know she was a former council member, but this is in South Mulberry. This is around the hospital site. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I did a stupid thing 2 weeks ago, but it had to be done. I went over and trimmed a tree up on the hospital property. I might have been arrested, but maybe Mr. Bucci would have bailed me out, because that tree, they were going underneath the tree, shooting up in front of me. 2 individuals, father and son, on South Mulberry. They're up and down that street. They're defecating on that street. They're hiding needles. They're still over there. But the police department has really come forward, and I'm not going to let anybody criticize them for my neighborhood, because Captain Langston and several of those officers have kept up their promise to me, and I trust those people. They work very hard, and I have on my camera videoed of the sheriff's department in the church lot across from my house. These people are out all hours of the night, and the bike situation is out of hand. They're going down East Washington Street and Mulberry Street, 10 of them at a time, and they're putting on a show for you. And everybody in the neighborhood could hear it. But the good news is, when I started this out, now I'm talking about needles, the syringes that are used, they have an orange cap on them, most of them. I've picked up on the hospital property and around the church. They were even shooting up on Church of the Brethren parking lot. I'm sitting on the porch at 2 in the morning watching them. They don't care. It's meth. Meth is the choice of drug right now, I'm telling you, because their odds are like this. I was a former user. I know what they're on. When these people are standing right in front of you doing it, something's wrong. But I've picked up since 9/1 181 needles, syringes that were actual syringes. But when you total in the orange caps I've picked up, 531. Right on the hospital property and around my area. That's a lot. So I'm stopped my walking tour. I'm still going to go around. I will give David Washington at the Health Department credit. Captain Langston brought me a red container. Well, David Washington set me up real good, and I actually have given the hospital mowers a container so they can pick up the needles. I've established a rapport with the hospital. They might have not liked me at first, but I took up for that police department because I blew a fuse. And somebody listened, and I have a feeling the hospital administrator was looking at the property. Now I hear they're going to fence in the property. I keep hearing more and more, but I will tell you this, that it started out 38 needles a day, and I'm down to 2 on each side because I'm running their asses out of there. I'm taking their needles. They're hiding them in areas where I'm taking them right and left, and I'm doing it nonchalantly. I'm walking around like I'm a bum picking up cans, and they're shooting up right in front of you. They're defecating right on the ground, but I put the run on them. We finally get to sleep at night, except for the bikes. We get to sleep on South Melbourne, the first block. When they got rid of the problem on the corner, number 2, the one on East Washington and South Melbourne, when they got rid of that, and I helped with that big time. When we got rid of that, we finally got rid of most of the problem. The problem's moving. I'm probably moving those drug dealers to another neighborhood. And I apologize for that, but I get to sleep at night. And my neighbors have sat back and watched this going on, and they're taking action. They're watching and telling me where needles are. And the only reason I get those needles is young kids in that neighborhood. So that's my whole purpose there. So there is some good news. When you go from 38 a day to 2, something's working. And that tree I cut down, they actually picked the branches up because I thought I'm going to jail over this. But I went over with a handsaw and trimmed that tree up. Why would you trim up all the trees at the end and leave one tree where they were shooting up, the tree they were shooting up? So that's taken care of, and I did that. So I'm out of trouble with that because I called the hospital and told them right out what I did. And I don't think at first they thought I cut the tree down. So that's the issue. Now the issue about the alley back there you're going to take up tonight, there's a lot of confusion about that because of the people that live where I live, behind that alley there, unnamed alley between the parking lot of South Mulberry Lofts and South Mulberry Street, that little street right there. It's all the traffic going to go down through there, and if that happens, you got a nightmare because the road has been torn up by somebody, that little alley, they tore it up, and there's a bump. That there needs to maybe look into it. But the people the committee that I'm on, Neighborhood First, they were going to start this protest bit out in front of the hospital. That wasn't the way to go. At first I thought that was, but I went the other way. Now I'm going to tell you what else I've taken up. I'm taking up about the actual, I listened to Captain Langston. It's not about picking up needles, it's about the needle distribution. I was all for that at first, but baby, it ain't working. In my opinion, I thought it was going to be needle for needle. They throw the needles. They're throwing them everywhere. Everywhere. Where that trampoline was over on the hospital property, you would not believe what I picked up over there. But all that's gone because I've run them out of there. They know that someone's doing it, they just can't figure out who's doing it. And it's me, little old me. And I bought a new pair of boots over it. So, I'm going to tell you that. But the issue is they're on the streets all hours of the night, and I understand the police department. I hear more sirens, as I told you before, in this city than I did in San Francisco. More ambulances and police cars. And I know they're overworked. But they're just so out of it that when they shoot that stuff up, I mean to tell you, they're frothing at the mouth. And I will tell you, I saved a life 2 Sundays ago right on the hospital property, so they ought to thank me for that. And I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. A man with, he must have had MS or something that had shot up with him, come flying over, and I'm sitting on my porch. And I took up this course over at the library. Never had to use it. And I happened to have rubber flips on, and I couldn't run fast enough. I threw one of these to the friend that came over, and I'm on the phone with the 911 system. Something needs to be addressed there because they were asking me questions, and I'm trying to tell them there's a guy laying here purple. And they're asking me all these, and I mean, I was upset because his friend used my thing on him, gave him the 3rd shot, and I'm going to tell you most of the time after 2, they ain't coming back. But the 3rd brought him up. His head was busted open. He's a guy that walks on South Mulberry, hangs up on the corner where the corner pub is. This guy popped out of it. He broke his glasses. He had his head busted open. I had 911 on there. I was trying to tell him, well, this guy that was with him used mine and threw mine down. They had labels on them telling you codes. This guy had one that he gave him the 2 shots with. He grabbed his label and ran, left his friend laying there. Now this is their friend leaving them laying on the ground. This gentleman got up, headed towards East Antietam Street, staggering, and I'm still with 911 trying to tell him where he's gone. Well, about 20 minutes later, I'm over there with the red container picking their needles up. He had vomited all over the side of the hospital. This guy that had laid on the ground that was near death came down the hill and started this, sir, and this. And he actually said to me, sir, you think you could do me a favor? Could you give me $20 to go to my sister? That $20 was going to go right back in that arm. And this gentleman was so, he could have suffocated on his own. He actually had it, and somebody gave him blue Band-Aids. And I'm over in the laundromat on East Baltimore Street, and the gentleman was in the laundromat a week later doing the same routine. And you got a guy over there, father and son, that's the #1 problem on that upper block of Mulberry. But it is working, what I'm doing. And I'm doing it the common sense way. And I don't phone the police anymore because that takes up their time getting those needles. my needle container that Captain Langston gave me is 3/4 filled. So that's being taken care of, and I just want to tell you the other thing. When you put the Christmas tree up in the square, make it bright this year, because all my neighbors said, put Christmas lights on it that
You got
shine. But I am giving you a little bit of good news about what's happened, and I almost thought I was going to have somebody bail me out from the city when I cut the tree. So there's the way it's going. That's good news for you.
We appreciate all your help, Mr. Staub, thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Senator Quarterman.
Thank you, and appreciate you allowing me a few minutes. Before I get into what I was here for, I want to just let one of the previous speakers know that on November 9th at 6 p.m. is the public portion of the delegation day. So I know that was asked here earlier this evening. So, Mr. Devine, 6 p.m., all right? We'll see you there, and anyone else who would like to come and participate, we encourage that. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Just want to touch real quick on an issue here you have up for a vote here this evening in regards to the agreement with the municipal stadium. By now, you should have all received electronically and by hard copy a letter from the Downtown Baseball Group in regards to a meeting they have requested in regards to some timelines with not only the downtown project, but also the project that you guys are about to embark on, which I may say congratulations. As I believe, I think the mayor said last week, it's a long time coming. I know Councilmember Alshire has worked on this extensively, and we're all excited about that project. I think it's important though that we all work together as both these projects move forward, so that our timelines, line up for the benefit of the community, because that's what we're all here for. Is we want to have two fantastic facilities here for the community. So everything I saw presented last week and everything that's in your packets today indicated that you're going to enter a contractual agreement with Eastern Sports tonight, which again I think is phenomenal, and then solicit some bids for demolition, which I applaud you on that too as you do your due diligence. I would only ask that we have a meeting with the folks in the local investment group who's making the investment here in our community in regards to the future of that facility before any demolition plans are finalized. So that's all they ask is here this evening, I hope, and look forward to hearing from you guys soon and continuing these conversations as we look to better our community together. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Approval of the minutes.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on September 14th, 21st, and 28th of 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Kristen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I feel like it has been a long day. Approval of an ordinance, land management code amendments for small-scale breweries, distilleries, and wineries.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve an ordinance to amend chapter 140 land management code of the city code. These amendments modify the definition of small-scale breweries, distilleries, and wineries, and increase the square footage permitted by special exemption in specific zoning districts. The complete details are outlined in the attached ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve of an ordinance authorizing the purchase of property located at 32 North Potomac Street, Hagerstown.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to approve an ordinance authorizing the purchase of property located at 32 North Potomac Street, Hagerstown, Maryland. The acquisition of the property is consistent with the mayor and city council's goals for long-term investments to benefit the citizens of Hagerstown. The purchase price of $825,000 is expected to be funded by the city's American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of an ordinance for the sale of a portion of the property and authorizing the execution and delivery of a purchase agreement between the city and GB&J's LLC.
Madam Mayor, hereby move for the introduction of ordinance for the sale of a portion of property known as Lot 1 and located on Eastern Boulevard, South Hagerstown, Maryland, authorizing the execution and delivery of the attached purchase agreement between the city and GB&J's LLC.
Second.
Second by Bob. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a resolution, acceptance of the railway occupancy agreement between the City of Hagerstown and CSX Transportation, Inc. for a sanitary sewer lining along West Washington Street.
Madam Mayor, I move the mayor and city council approve a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Hagerstown, Maryland, to enter into a right-of-way encroachment agreement for the lining of a 20-inch sanitary sewer across a CSX Transportation, Inc. right-of-way along West Washington Street for the continued rehabilitation of the city of Hagerstown sanitary sewer system.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a resolution to close portions of alley 3-39 and 3-45 to through traffic.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of resolution as part of the city administrator's take-back project, authorizing the closure of portions of alleys 3-39 and 3-45 to all through vehicular and pedestrian traffic per the attached plan. I further authorize staff to implement the plan.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one quick question. I can find 3-45. I could not locate 339 on the map. Never mind. I see it down here in the bottom right.
Bixler Alley.
I think that's big slurs.
Between Mulberry and Locust. And the other was right beside the parking deck.
Bixler Alley.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of resolution, First Amendment to real estate purchase and sale agreement for a portion of 441 South Potomac Street with Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc.
Madam Mayor, move the mayor and council approval of a resolution to approve the First Amendment to the real estate purchase and sale agreement for a portion of 441 South Potomac Street with Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc. This amendment extends the settlement date to January 21, 2022. The mayor is further authorized to execute and deliver the agreement.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a license agreement with New Alexander House LLC.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to execute a license agreement between the City of Hagerstown and New Alexander House LLC, permitting them to install a concrete access ramp as part of their building renovation in the southeast quadrant of Public Square. The ramp will also require Historic District Commission approval in coordination with Cannon Coffee Cafe.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a Landover project agreement with Western Maryland RC&D Council, Inc.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to approve a landowner project agreement with Western Maryland Resource Conservation and Development Council. The agreement grants permission to install trees to create forest on 24.4 acres of city-owned land at the Wilson Water Treatment Plant, Breckner Water Treatment Plant, Edgemont Reservoir Residence, and Rock Willow Properties. The city will receive the applicable MS4 stormwater credits.
Second.
Any discussion?
So, just a quick question. So we'll get the MS4 credits even though the plantings are not within our corporate boundaries?
We've already confirmed that.
Wow. That's pretty
City-owned
sweet.
property, makes sense,
That's good to know.
yeah.
And we got a grant to do the project.
Yeah. Good work.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of Invest Hagerstown City Center redevelopment grant application at 53 West Washington Street.
Madam Mayor, I move the mayor and city council to approve the attached Invest Hagerstown City Center redevelopment grant application for the renovation project at 53 West Washington Street with estimated total project cost of $4.091587 million. Staff are authorized to issue a letter of commitment to Blackthorn Capital Partners LP for a grant in the amount of $250,000 with a project completion deadline of May 1st, 2023. No funds will be dispersed until staff have verified that all work in the development plan is completed to the city's satisfaction and the total project cost expenditure requirements have been met. Funding for this grant will come from the Invest Hagerstown line item in the Economic Redevelopment Fund.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of an open container exemption for Augustoberfest Charitable Foundation at Chris Kendall Market.
Madam Mayor, hereby move that mayor and council approve an exemption from the City of Hagerstown's open containers regulation under section 173-6 of the Code of the City of Hagerstown for the Augustoberfest Charitable Foundation at the Chris Kendall Market event on December 10th and December 11th, 2021 at University Plaza.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of open container exemption for downtown Hagerstown Halloween block party.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move that mayor and council approve an exemption from the City of Hagerstown's open container regulation under section 173-6 of the Code of the City of Hagerstown for the downtown Hagerstown Halloween block party event taking place on the unit block of South Potomac Street on Saturday, October 30th, 2021. This allows for restaurants on that block to obtain permits from the Washington County Liquor Board to serve and sell alcohol in fenced-in areas in front of their places of business.
Second.
Give that.
Second to Takesha. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of fiscal year 22 Axon body camera payment.
Madam Mayor, we move the mayor and council approval to pay the FY22 portion of the Axon body camera contract that was renewed by mayor and council in FY21. This is a multi-year contract that will run through FY25 and will cover new body cameras, their maintenance, the associated video storage and management software, hardware, licensing fees, and warranties. This is a sole source project as the goods and services required are only manufactured and available from Axon. Furthermore, allied law enforcement agencies in the county, along with the Washington County State's Attorney's Office, utilize the same platform for joint investigations and prosecutions.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of fiscal year 22 part-time and seasonal employee COVID compensation for calendar 2020.
Madam Mayor, hereby move for mayor and council to approve the payment of stipends to be made to part-time and seasonal employees based upon all the following conditions. Part-time staff, 35 employees, cost $72,000. Coverage period of this compensation is January 27th, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Number 2, must be employed as of October 18th, 2021. Number 3, paid at the rate of $240 for each hour worked on site. Seasonal staff, 21 employees, cost $23,000. Coverage period of this compensation is January 27, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, and worked for entire term period in 2020. Must have returned to work at the city during calendar 2021. Paid lump sum rate of $1,000. Full-time staff, 1 employee, cost $5.4 thousand. Paid lump sum of $5,000 for 1 employee that was excluded in a June distribution. The payment will be distributed to qualified employees on Friday, November 5th, 2021. Funding for this payment will be through each fund's fiscal year 22 approved budget and from general fund budget contingency account.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of an agreement with Eastern Sports Management LLC.
Madam Mayor, hereby move to authorize the city to enter an agreement with Eastern Sports Management LLC for Phase 1 of the development of an indoor recreation facility at the municipal stadium property. Deliverables of this phase will include public involvement, concept plans, and cost estimates that will be used for procuring capital for construction. Funding of the $70,000 contract will be from fiscal year 21 general fund surplus. I further move to authorize staff to prepare a demolition contract for municipal stadium and solicit bids for future consideration by the city council.
Have a second.
Second.
Second by Tiara. Any discussion?
Yes.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You
No,
first.
you go first.
No, okay, sure.
I digress, you go.
So, I see Senator Corderman in the audience, and I know that you're addressing these comments, and we did get the letter. Two things. One, I will repeat, I certainly understand the potential dilemma that the baseball group may be in. I will reiterate that I have concern that a new team will be opening its debut in what everyone in that group and so many others for decades have been telling us is a very used and outdated facility. I think that if I were of preference, I'd rather take some form of penalty than open up that new entity in a facility that will be 3, 4, 5 years at that point. 5 years not in use for professional baseball sports purposes. Is that right? About 5 years?
Well, they would have used it in 2019, right?
Right.
20, 21, 22, 4 years.
So I have that concern, and I don't think that that's directly related to this specific item, the contract, that is. Number two, it certainly says future consideration. My understanding of that word future in this is that once we receive bids for demolition, that this body will consider moving forward with demolition of that facility rather than continuing to have that responsibility in perpetuity, number one. And number two, putting in jeopardy any relationship we may have with fulfilling those contract obligations we have for that other identified use, i.e., that contractor has clearly identified for this body a timeline of expectation for opening in 2025, I believe, if everything were to work out. And so right. And so the difficulty I would have is if there is an 18-month construction schedule, I certainly would be opposed to a conflict being that this other activity that we've identified for reuse of property for productive public purpose not be hamstrung, if you will, in some unknown fashion to a project that may or may not be open in 2024 if, as that letter indicates, is because of delay in construction capability. I must admit, I have some difficulty in accepting that there is a delay based on COVID related issues and based on construction material related issues and based on labor market related issues when I see huge venue spaces like North Point and a half a dozen others up and down the I-81 corridor completely chugging along with construction projects in a very active fashion as we speak.
I have two things with this. One, since we're in a formal setting, and I'll ask formally, because I can't seem to get anywhere when I don't, I would love to know what our general fund surplus was for fiscal year 21. That's number one. Number two, I tend to agree with you, Councilman Elshire, that I believe that any delay in construction is definitely not a foregone conclusion. I believe that come 2024 period, actually at the beginning of 2024, I would tend to think that things will loosen up, considering that it's an election year, and people are going to want to get elected, and we won't have these self-made, man-made issues that we have currently. I also understand that the indoor sports complex is a desired amenity in our community, and I am in favor of it. I had a conversation just today about the one concern you had, which is opening a season of a new baseball team in an old stadium. And the conversation that I had centered around actually a very exciting concept that I think we should be able to hear about, and then make any kind of decision or tweaking of contracts or anything else. But we aren't in any actual contracts as of yet. We've contracted to do concept plans, cost estimates, and things like that, and authorize staff to prepare a demolition contract for municipal stadium and solicit bids for future consideration by the city council. So I believe that everything actually should be on the table, and that everything, considering that we're looking at a $70 million investment in the core of the city of Hagerstown, I believe that we should do all that we can to try to accommodate both of these projects. And I believe that in the fall of 2024, we could still be cutting a ribbon over at Old Municipal Stadium in one fashion or another, and before this term is up. So that's it.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that, Councilmember. I just want to make it clear for the public that if staff's saying fall 2024 to open, and we've been given a 18-month construction window, 12 months back from that is October of 23. 6 months back from that is March of 23, which puts us at the beginning of the requested delay for alternative use of a facility that will have been abandoned for a number of years, to restore that use for a very temporary fashion. That 18-month window, just so we're clear and the public's clear, does not include then a 3 to 6 month time frame for demolition and restoration readiness for reconstruction. So if you add that 3 to 6 month window in, we are in the fall of 22 to make that occur. Now, through this entire process, I have patiently and begrudgingly accepted that we couldn't look at alternative sites because of timeframes, being tight. We couldn't look at alternative ideas because of timeframes being tight, and now there is a abrupt necessity because of reasons stated in the letter, which they're the reasons, and I certainly accept that that's what's being presented. I think it probably has more to do with negotiation of sales of property delaying the process than I believe it does, construction and pandemic-related issues, and that's fine. I think it's beneficial to convey that to the public if that's the actual reason. But for me, that's 12 months into or beyond a process that I believe that a majority of this body has been abundantly clear it is moving in the direction on. And so I guess even if I were to consider this, at minimum, just to consider an additional 12-month delay on something folks have been telling us has to happen, for 2 decades, there's got to be some freight paid to bring that facility back into a usable condition for that single season. There's going to have to be full freight paid for that delay in our intention for that alternative reuse, including full freight costs for demolition. Those are the things at minimum that I would even begin considering that alternative approach to unduly delay a project that we've now set out on.
Yes.
I appreciate the concerns. The request is very simple. Before we make a decision, let's sit down and talk. That's all that it is. You're making assumptions and innuendos, and quite frankly, accusations of individuals who sent a letter to you in good faith. Let them speak and let them have a conversation with you so you can understand the actual concerns that are here before we make decisions. I think that's all that we are asking. I think that's what's fair in anything, that you have all the information that's available before you make a decision. I understand you want to make a decision and move forward, but maybe gather the information first. And to say that you don't believe what the letter says,
Okay.
it's quite frankly sad. It just is.
Okay.
No, I mean, you are.
Listen, you've had your
Senator-
say. We're in the middle of a meeting.
I understand.
Yes.
You're not participating in this vote. What
I
you should
understand.
do is sit down.
I will sit down, sir. At the same time, I will not allow you to take individuals who make a considerable investment in our community and impugn their integrity.
You-
That's
you-
uncalled
you're
for,
right.
sir.
You should stand there and get
That's
special
uncalled
treatment.
for.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure what date, but yes, we're going to have a conversation so we can address those concerns.
So then, if you find that, I got one other thing then, if nobody else.
What?
Do you guys have anything to add?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Then I would move that we table this until after that conversation and bring it back up for the capital.
Why would we take?
I'm not in favor
I'm
of
not in
that
favor of table.
at all.
Okay.
So just to be clear, there's no second on that, but we have a motion and a second on the floor. Yeah,
Right.
okay. So, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes. You're not opposed?
No.
Okay, yes. All right, approval of rent relief for the Hagerstown Ice Amateur Athletic Association.
Madam
Madam-
Mayor,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
You
Okay. Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council approval to grant the request of the Hagerstown Ice Amateur Athletic Association, HIAAA, for rent relief and waive rent fees in the amount of $5,700 for calendar year 2020. The HIAAA experienced revenue losses due to closing the facility to public skating as mandated by the state of Maryland due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Administrator.
Just, I'm probably stealing your thunder on some of these, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I have no thunder.
Just want to
left.
remind folks, it's been a long day.
Long day.
Just want to remind folks that tomorrow night at 5 o'clock is the unveiling of redesign concepts for Wheaton Park. I'd like to have as many in the community that would like to come to the park and look at these concepts and express their opinions on them to attend. That'll be at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Thursday at 4 o'clock is trunk or treat at Fairgrounds Park. Let's see, Saturday is Halloween costume parade at Fairgrounds Dog Park. That starts at 10 o'clock. And I want to thank tremendously our Main Street Hagerstown group for, in a moment's notice after hearing that the Mummers Parade was being canceled, picking up the ball and maintaining some activities downtown as part of the Hagerstown Block Party on South Potomac Street. That will start at 5 o'clock on Saturday with trick or treat, costume contests. The restaurants will have specials, and again, all put together by our Main Street Hagerstown Committee. So I want to thank them for that. That's it for me.
Kristen?
I have three things this evening. One is in relation to Mr. Devine that spoke earlier. You don't really get a sense of things occurring in certain parts of the community unless you go there and you sort of, visualize it on a regular basis yourself. And I think I've brought this up before and then, went by the wayside a little. But I will tell you on Downsville Pike, I didn't realize until this year how much there is bus drop-off behind South High. So, as as a kid going there, I always thought South High had sort of one place you went in, and that's not the case. There are hundreds of kids.
Is that because of the portables that are back there?
I don't know why, but I would say there's
It's where the
500
buses turn
kids
now.
that are definitely bused or getting on and off the bus at the Dow Park.
Yeah.
And the amount of pedestrian activity that's sort of during that half-hour period that floods across the road, and you got the construction of the bank there at the shopping center next door and the rehab of that, and you got the wood business there now. There is clearly an element of activity for us to do something to inform motorists that are coming over into town to sort of slow down, because, you know, you got the Save a Lot entrance, you got probably half a dozen shopping center entrances right there in that little stretch. So you just, if you have the chance, 3:30 on some afternoon, go by there, and
Could we
his
get a,
comments were on point.
could we get a vehicle count out there, Rod?
Councilmember, can I add to that also? The same is true on the South Potomac side at McKay Dow, where if you're there in the morning, there is a probably 15, 20 car backup on set. So as you're going over the rise,
Every day.
I'm in
you
it
come
every
upon
day.
it pretty quick. So
Every
I
day.
think if we could do the same on South Potomac there,
I-
or maybe,
I think it's because they're not letting as many kids on buses.
yeah, that's exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
and
Yeah.
It's bad
And they-
on
it-
South Potomac.
I almost saw a wreck there the other day. So if we could do the same, have the same consideration there, that'd be great.
The second item is, while I certainly believe we had somewhat of a productive meeting with our counterparts at the county earlier today, I will say that I did have some surprise that there was not an initial, looks like they're reconsidering, an initial consideration and acceptance of the dual stipend for those cross-related employees. I think I said from the outset, you know, employees, especially in the public safety field, that were inundated in that process, especially early on, that had the opportunity through the ARPA funding to receive up to, I think it was $26,000. And, you know, to hear that they weren't going to get five from both governmental entities when they were clearly working in both those dynamics in a very sort of odd environment of unknowns. So I'm glad they're reconsidering. I was a little surprised by that. And thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. The last is really an off-the-cuff thing. I was parked out here, and I always park out here in the parking lot, and I noticed a gentleman and his son playing basketball against the wall this evening, but there's no hoop there. And all I'm saying is, I just off the cuff for a moment thought, man, we have a pretty empty parking lot here a good number of evenings, and I know that there's somebody looking at me right now from staff that's like, that's a liability issue, but it would, I just, you know, to put a hoop there and just so.
Which building?
Just, it was right here in the parking lot, you know, and so they're at the front, sort of thrown against the wall.
Okay.
I just thought it'd be cool to have something like that. I think they have it over at the church lot, so,
Otterbein has one, yeah.
yeah. I don't know, put one up somewhere in the evening where you just play. It's just a big empty parking lot a lot of evenings in some sections of it, and it's lit, and they were certainly enjoying themselves, but, you know, there wasn't a readily accessible area, so, anyway, just 2 cents on that.
You done?
Yeah.
Well, I was at the meeting this morning also with our counterparts in the county, and I gathered absolutely nothing from that meeting that made any sense to me. But I know that the city administrator has some information he's going to be sending the county, and hopefully their response, if they look at it with a logical sense, we'll see that, you know, it's good for both of us. So hopefully that gets worked out. Other than that, there's some football game coming up. I don't know what it is. It's not the Redskins, because I wouldn't watch them anyway, but,
Well, there isn't a Redskins anymore anyway.
that's true. There's a WFT or WFT, that's right. Anyway, I guess you're gonna talk about that, aren't you?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
right. Tiara?
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I was also at the meeting this morning at the county commissioners building, and I just want to say that I was pretty quiet in that setting, because for me, it was very, very tense and very disheartening to see so much bickering back and forth between elected bodies. I guess that's politics, but I don't feel it should be governed that way. I think that we all should be able to voice our opinions in a respectful manner and also get the same respect back. But what I experienced this morning was truly disappointing, and I hope that when we go forward with our future meetings with the county commissioners and any other elected body, that we remember that just to have common decency and respect for one another. That's all.
Keisha?
Yeah, I will second that. Common decency and respect for each other. As we come into November and Thanksgiving and family time, just be mindful that some people are burying multiple family members. Some people have multiple family members hospitalized. There is a lot of death. And so if you could just be kind, just find it in you just to be kind. Someone else's emergency may be really about survival. And just a kind word, a smile may help. So just be a good neighbor and just remember we're all in this together. Thank you.
So I was also in the county meeting this morning, and I agree with everything that was said today. It was unfortunate to watch us be talked over and over and over and over. It's just uncalled for, to be quite honest. And this was our third meeting of this administration, and every time we've gone with deliverables, and here we are, almost a year in, and not one has been delivered on. So I hope that we are able to make some progress moving forward, whether we have to do it by 2x2s or by passing legislation or whatever it looks like. With that said, I appreciate Chief Floor's guidance on a lot of those issues, and I also appreciate a lot of the very kind messages I got today from members of the Hagerstown Fire Department, who I think all share in a thank you for us standing our ground. And I appreciate the four of you up here for continuing to stand your ground on these issues. It's time to make some change in this county, and I think we have the backbone to do it. So I appreciate you guys today having the city's back. Friday, that football game Councilmember Brucci was talking about is North versus South, game at 6 o'clock. I guess I'm not allowed to have an opinion on who I would like to win anymore, but I appreciate everyone that can come out, huh? I asked if I could borrow his jersey, but he told me no.
That's a Bob tradition.
But I hope to see everyone there. And then I just wanted to thank the Hagerstown Police Department on the great work they did solving the murder and the shooting that happened this weekend. The suspect is already in custody. And with that said, addressing some of the comments that were made earlier regarding crime in this city and other issues in this city, I think we all kind of forgot, because of the COVID epidemic, that we are still, as a nation, facing a very, very serious drug crisis. This is not a Hagerstown issue. This is not a Washington County issue. This is a national issue. Overdoses have skyrocketed. Mental health issues have skyrocketed. Drug use in general is up, and we live in an urban city. It is what it is. We have 45,000 people in 12 square miles. So we are going to see it more so than someone who lives in an urban or a rural area. I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm saying that we need to address it and find solutions. Also, the notion that it's really good to be homeless in Hagerstown. As someone who does outreach pretty much weekly and actually goes and talks to people who are homeless and walks with the organizations who are trying to help them, if you think it's easy to be homeless in this city or anywhere else, I challenge you to get up tomorrow morning, don't brush your teeth, don't take a shower, don't change your clothes, get up, leave your house, and walk somewhere and try to find something to eat, and then try to find somewhere to use the bathroom, and then try to find somewhere to get a shower, and then try to find somewhere to wash your clothes, and then try to find somewhere to have dinner, and then try to find somewhere to sleep. it's not easy. Yes, we have a lot of organizations, but I hear over and over again, homeless people love it here. No one loves it. No one loves it sleeping under a bridge behind the REACH shelter. It is not the reality, and if you go actually talk to people who are struggling, you will learn. So, sorry that had me fired up, but I really hate when people say that. So, I appreciate our staff that works diligently every single day to make this city better. I understand we have our issues, but I think it does a huge disservice to the people who wake up every day to make Hagerstown better to say that we are just terrible, falling apart. It's not the case. And with that,
Can you maybe get with the health department and address the needle exchange program?
yes, and Scott and I have met with Meredith as well. We're adjourned. Thanks.